call the meeting to order of the Wilmington City Council. I'd like to welcome all those who are with us here this evening and all those who are watching us at home. Thank you for taking an interest in your government. This time, I would like to recognize and introduce Reverend Stephen Bradley, the pastor of Pilgrim Rest Baptist Church, for the invocation. I will ask everyone if they'll stand and remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance. Reverend, welcome.
Amen. Let us pray. Dear God, we are privileged for the opportunity to praise you for all of the blessings that you have given us in the past. We're also privileged to partake in the life that you have given us this day with all of its joys and even with all of its challenges. And God, we're also privileged to be able to petition you for our needs and our cares for the future. So God, I pray tonight for each presenter as they come that you would give them the gift of clarity and articulation. And we pray for our mayor and this city council that you will bless them as they join hands and minds to care for the concerns of the citizens of Wilmington, North Carolina. This is our prayer. We thank you. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to also recognize two individuals in City Hall tonight, former council member Paul Lawler that is with us. Paul, thank you for being here. And also Commissioner Rob Zappel, who I saw. Rob, thank you also for being here. We have several presentations this evening. The first presentation is a presentation of the Order of the Longleaf Pine Award to Captain Wilbur D. Jones, Jr., and I would ask if the entire City Council would join me at the front as we make this tremendous presentation and honor to Captain Jones. I've been in a lot of presentations before, but you brought the entire city with you, Wilbur, so congratulations. It is a tremendous honor to recognize this gentleman tonight. Since 1963, North Carolina's governors have reserved their highest honor, the Order of the Longleaf Pine, for persons who have made significant contributions to the state and their communities through exemplary service and exceptional accomplishments. Tonight, on behalf of the governor of the state of North Carolina, I get to bestow this high honor upon one of Wilmington's own, Captain Wilbur D. Jones, Jr., who has devoted his life to public service through distinguished careers in the military, government, politics, and writing. A graduate of the University of North Carolina, Captain Jones served in the United States Navy, was Chief of Staff for a member of Congress, and staffed two presidents, President Richard Nixon and President Gerald Ford. He served nearly 41 consecutive years in the Department of Defense on active duty, in the Ready Reserve, and as a civilian professor and associate dean of information at the Defense Acquisition University in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. His tenure included more than 7 years in the Pentagon as a captain on active duty and as a civilian assistant to the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisitions. Captain Jones is a passionate protector of Wilmington and North Carolina history. He writes, he lectures, and consults on World War II, military and defense issues, leads North Carolina's World War II historical preservation, and has led historical tours to Europe and throughout southeastern North Carolina. Captain Jones was appointed by Governor McCrory to serve as chairman of the USS North Carolina Battleship Commission, on which he served from 2013 to 2017. I enjoyed working with him during this time to ensure the USS North Carolina would continue to operate as Wilmington's permanent and iconic memorial and exhibit for our state's World War II veterans. In 2000, he founded the all-volunteer World War II Wilmington Homefront Heritage Coalition, whose mission is to identify, and preserve, and interpret southeastern North Carolina's rich World War II legacy. He originated with the full support of the Wilmington City Council, an ambitious project seeking national designation for Wilmington as the first American World War II city, working closely with our city officials and state congressional delegation over more than a decade. In a final culmination of Captain Jones' coordination and tireless efforts, on September the 2nd, 2020, during a ceremony on board the battleship North Carolina, the United States President officially designated Wilmington as our country's first World War II heritage city. During my tenure as mayor, it has been a pleasure to work with Captain Jones on many initiatives stemming from his leadership roles in various local civic organizations. He has contributed his energy and vision as director of the Wilmington Rotary Club, chairman of the Hannah Block Historic USO Community Arts Center Advisory Board, and boards for the Salvation Army and New Hanover County Public Library. Wilbur was married to Carol Robbins Jones for 54 years until her death in 2013. Shortly after, he met Anne LaRue, who would come to be his best friend and sweetheart. Like Wilbur, Anne embodied the value of service above self, and it was Anne who originally nominated Wilbur for this honor, many months before her tragic death in November this past year. Anne knew that Wilbur was worthy of this award, and the city of Wilmington and the state of North Carolina agree wholeheartedly. Notably, recipients of the Order of the Longleaf Pine have included poets Maya Angelou, NBA Hall of Famer Michael Jordan, actor Andy Griffin, and civil rights leader Scott King. Over his lifetime, Captain Jones has demonstrated an enduring dedication to the city of Wilmington and the state of North Carolina that makes him worthy of the high honor of the Order of the Longleaf Pine. And we honor him tonight. And as a little factoid, I was told, I don't know if it's true or not, but I believe it is, that Wilbur had to go testify before Congress about this World War II heritage city, why we wanted to be number one. And he was questioned about that by, I believe, a congressman. And Wilbur turned around and says, well, the reason we want to be number one is because we asked for it first. I believe it's true. But also, the city seal has this beautiful bumblebee. I mean, you talk about a lot of Charlie. And underneath it, it says what Wilmington stands for, perseverance. And this man right here for 12 years fought diligently and hard to make this happen, to bring this award and to bring this recognition to this beautiful city of Wilmington, North Carolina. And, you know, there's a lot of Wilmingtonians, great Wilmingtonians, but Wilbur, you're one of the best. And I just want to say congratulations, job well done, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. I just want to present the award first, and then Wilbur has a few words. And it says, the state of North Carolina, Roy Cooper, Governor, posing special confidence in the integrity, learning, and seal of Wilbur D. Jones, Jr., I do by these presents confer the Order of the Longleaf Pine with the rank of Ambassador Extraordinary, privilege to enjoy fully all rights granted to members of this exalted order, among which is the special privilege to propose the following North Carolina toast in select company anywhere in the free world. Here is the land of the longleaf pine, the summer land where the sun doth shine, where the weak grow strong and the strong grow great. Here's to down home, the old North State. You got a lot of friends here tonight, so I want you to have this toast ready for them when you give them drinks.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Congratulations.
got to get a picture of it.
Pass the microphone.
Hold on, come on, everybody over here.
Okay.
Come over here.
He's got his wide angle lens.
Floor is yours.
Now, can I make a switch?
Yes, you can, sir. Absolutely.
Are you all going to sit down?
No. We'll stay right here.
Thank you, Mayor Sappho. I tell you, this is overwhelming. And isn't it nice that City Council all got up? So those of you standing in the back, go take their seats up here. Yeah, go ahead. There's plenty of room up there. But thank you all for being here. I'm really overwhelmed. I asked for 2 minutes, and Kara Spencer of the staff gave me 2 minutes. And I'm going to try to hurry through this because I know you've got really important business to go. But Mayor Sappho, really, you and I have become real good friends over the many years, and you've been tremendous, you and council, in supporting everything I've tried to do to preserve Wilmington's and North Carolina's history, and I thank you so much. I am a proud Wilmington native. I grew up here during World War II, graduated from New Hanover High School and the University of North Carolina. My memoir subtitle reads, "A Born and Bred Carolina Tar Heel." This award represents my payback. I need to thank 4 of the people dear to my heart who are unable to be with us tonight. First, my late wife of 54 years, Carol Jones, who steadfastly encouraged and stood by my passion for public service to our country, my state, community, and World War II history, and perhaps tolerated many of my projects and ours. Second, to my late sweetheart and best friend of the last 9 years, Anne LaRue, who enthusiastically supported my efforts and shared in their successes. Next, my parents. Oh, how I appreciate the positive impact and influence they had on my life, the Christian ideals and work ethic they taught me. But they never lived to see the accomplishments embodied in this award. My mother, a Wilmington native, was raised on the wrong side of the tracks downtown. My father, a World War I Navy veteran, was born and raised on a tenant farm in Onslow County. In their early years, both were considered lower middle class, but they loved North Carolina. Neither were educated past the 8th grade, yet their works helped to shape Wilmington. They would be immensely proud tonight, and to their memory and love for me, I dedicate this award. They rest in Oakdale Cemetery, but I feel them here. As you know, the longleaf pine is the state's tree and entitles this award. My father loved its poem and kept it on his office desk. And the opening goes, again, Mr. Mayor, here's to the land of the longleaf pine, the summer land where the sun doth shine, where the weak grow strong and the strong go great. Here's to down home, the old North State. Thank you and good evening. Okay, y'all can get on with your meeting now. Come up to the City Club and have a
Next presentation this evening is a proclamation naming February 6, 2023 as John Hook Nixon Day. At this time, I'd like to recognize Mr. Atiba Johnson, who is the subcommittee chair for the Commission on African American History. If you'll please join me here at the front. Good to see you. Proclamation reads, declaring February 6, 2023 as John Hook Nixon Day. Whereas Mr. John Hook Nixon Jr. was born on October 21, 1949 in Wilmington, where he attended Williston High School, excelling in football, baseball, and basketball. And whereas Hook Nixon referred to New Hanover High School for his sophomore year before the area schools were fully integrated. Whereas Hook Nixon continued to excel in athletics even though he experienced obstacles and discrimination from white students and opposing fans, as he was often the only black player on some of their teams. Whereas his achievements, including being named All-State in baseball and All-Conference in football and basketball during his junior year, and garnering All-State honors in baseball, football, as well as All-American honorable mention for football during his senior year. Whereas while faced with adversity, Mr. Nixon chose to respond with superior athletics on the playing field, which led to him being drafted in the second round of the 1969 Major League Baseball draft by the St. Louis Cardinals. And whereas Mr. Nixon played professional baseball for 4 years, compiling a .230 batting average with 6 home runs, 38 ribbies, runs batted in 162 games. And whereas Mr. Nixon went on to serve for 35 years in the United States Army and also served as a mentor for many athletes when he returned to New Hanover High School in 1988 as a coach. And whereas Mr. Nixon paved the way for a large number of outstanding black athletes who followed in his footsteps, and his impact on New Hanover County schools and the area as a whole cannot be measured. Now, therefore, I, Bill Safford, by the virtue vested in me as mayor, do hereby declare that February 6, 2023 shall be recognized as John Hook Nixon Day in the city of Wilmington in gratitude for his many achievements and contributions to this great community. And now, Tebow, you have a few words to say on this remarkable man.
Thank you and good afternoon, good evening. As part of the Commission on African American History, it was our job, part of our purpose is to plan, develop, and implement the cultural awareness of some great historians in our Wilmington community to showcase that history. Not only was John Hook Nixon a remarkable athlete, again, his senior year, as Mayor Saffo stated, he was All-American mentioned in football, All-State in baseball and football, and the state basketball player of the year. That's tremendous. But it was another key important that was left out of all of that. He was also a scholar student. He was a scholar student during those tumultuous times, during racism. So just I'd like to thank the whole council. As we did our research, I'm proud that our council can stand up and assist the City of Wilmington's Commission on African American History as we continue to highlight individuals in our community and be the first in the country to continue to do that, to honor and highlight individuals that look like myself. So thank you.
Next presentation is a presentation of Employee Recognition Awards recipients, and we will make that presentation right now. This time I'd like to recognize our quarterly award winners for the city's Employee Recognition Program. And we're very fortunate to have a large group of dedicated and talented individuals striving to ensure that our residents receive the highest quality service possible from their government. The individuals being recognized today have demonstrated a commitment to the organization core values. The first individual being recognized is Ernest Marsan from our fire department. He is being recognized under the service category. Firefighter Marsan, come on up. Firefighter, good to see you, sir. Yeah, appreciate it. We got the chief also with us here today. Firefighter Marsan joined the department in May of 2021 as a new recruit. Shortly after completing Recruit Academy, he volunteered to become a lead shift educator. As the lead shift educator, Ernie saw a need within the community to help individuals to connect with needed services, so he established Empower Wilmington. This program is geared toward the underserved population and helps allocate local resources through community partners to reduce risk and improve quality of life. On October the 15th, 2022, Empower Wilmington held its first event at First Fruits Ministry where 20 organizations participated. Some of the resources in attendance included safe housing, veteran services, domestic violence prevention, legal aid, fire safety, and addiction. The event was a huge success. Ernie plans to continue to assist our community by coordinating additional events to bring much-needed services together for the public. 2 additional Empower Wilmington events have been confirmed to take place in the north side of the city next year. Ernie's work ethic, respect for others, professionalism, and his heart to serve are evident in everything he does. And I just want to say on behalf of the entire Wilmington City Council, Ernie, congratulations and the job well done. You just didn't talk about it, you went out there and tried to do something.
Thanks.
And I appreciate that. Thank you very much. God bless you. Good work.
Thank you.
Good work.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. The next individual being recognized this evening is Nicole Smith from our Planning and Development Department under the Teamwork category. Nicole has been in urban planning for about 6 months, sir. Nicole, come on forward. How you doing? She had an idea, Nicole did, to engage the community for the Greater Downtown Plan before our project kickoff to let them help us determine the specialties needed for our consultants. Each neighborhood that we spoke to appreciated this effort, and I cannot overstate the solid foundation this provided for the project. Nicole's background in development review allows her the flexibility to assist the other divisions in our department with the complex analysis of projects and administration of code amendments as the needs arise. Often, she presents these analyses to our City Council and Planning Commission on behalf of other divisions. She takes on these collaborative opportunities with passion, dedication, and professionalism. She has brought the last 2 code amendments through, and she often covers the planning intake desk as the planner on duty. As city employees, we all must be nimble and approachable for a variety of opportunities and issues as they arise. And Nicole takes on these endeavors with full focus and a great smile. She leads by example. Her knowledge and application of planning and development practices are only eclipsed by her ability to knit that expertise into a cross-departmental collaboration. And I just want to say, Nicole, thank you for all that great work. The Greater Wilmington Plan, which is getting out into the community and asking the community what they would like to see in these plans, was outstanding. And I just want to say congratulations and thank you very much on behalf of the entire City Council. Good work. Thank you. Thank you. The next individual being recognized is Sarah Yanosi from our Public Services Department in the category of Accountability and Professionalism. Sarah here? In March of 2022, the former buildings manager resigned, leaving a vacant position in a very important and lean maintenance division of 12 positions within the Public Services Department. This division is responsible for 1.3 million square feet within 70 plus facilities. Sarah agreed to take on the role of buildings manager. It's a tough job. It was. On an interim basis with very little direct experience with building maintenance. While she learned quite a bit on buildings, she also gained the experience of managing a division. There are a few notable items that Sarah went beyond the expectation: hiring and recruiting a buildings manager, housekeeping, senior facilities specialist, facilities technician, and compliance officer. In addition, she has gone to extensive efforts to prepare the new manager for his role. She developed an updated version of a manual to provide the new manager with reference and training materials. Most importantly, Sarah recognized the importance of providing a value-added service to our citizens. Maintenance of city facilities allows for the continuation of both internal services and external services to our citizens. And I just want to say that was a tremendous undertaking, job well done, and I believe that you put a manual together that I think that we can all read today. So thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Come on. Right over here. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next individual being recognized is Lynn Hartley from our police department. She's being recognized under the respect category. Lynn, welcome. Officer Hartley was nominated for the Women's Impact Award within the community. Every day she works with her fellow officers to provide a safer environment for this community. She worked many years in the Community Engagement Unit and is known amongst children, families, and those downtown who see her constantly. She is a daily inspiration for the importance of community engagement. Her compassion is exemplary to not only her coworkers and the citizens, but to even the animals she comes across in the city streets. There's one location downtown that has several stray cats that she visits regularly and makes sure that they have multiple food containers so everyone is being taken care of. Lynn is a team leader, but asks those around their opinions on what they would like to see or believe they would benefit from. Every day, she is smiling and shows a true commitment to being an officer. And I just want to say congratulations, Lynn, on the job well done. That's the kind of exemplary service that we all have come to expect and want in our community, and I thank you. On behalf of the city of Wilmington, thank you. Come on over here. Let me pick up these guys. Thank you very much. Good job, bud. Yes, you do. The last individuals being recognized this evening are Tim Collins and Devin Laverdure from our engineering department. They're being recognized under the safety category. Is Tim and Devin here? There we go. Come on up here, guys. This is a remarkable story. Tim and Devin were conducting preventive maintenance on traffic signals at the intersection of Market Street and Kerr Avenue when they noticed a car that had not moved after receiving the green light. They walked over to the gentleman and noticed he had passed out at the wheel and were unable to get his attention or to wake him. They called Wilmington Police Department to respond due to the vehicle being in gear and the gentleman passed out with his foot on the brake pedal. Not knowing if it was a medical emergency, they directed traffic around the stopped vehicle until police arrived on the scene to render aid and safety. And I just want to say that was outstanding work in helping an individual citizen that had obviously had a medical emergency there, and you folks did a phenomenal job, and that's what it's all about. And I just want to say thank you. God bless you, and you guys did a tremendous job. Thank you very much. Let's see that, please. Tina? You got it. Let's take a picture right here. There we go, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Okay, our next order of business is our consent agenda, items 1 through 3. Are there any items that any councilman would like to hear separately? If not, what are the wishes of this council? Motion to approve by Councilmember Anderson, second by Councilmember Spears. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. That brings us to our next item of business, which is our public information segment. We have one speaker that has signed up to speak with us this evening, Mr. Patrick Hoffman, who will be speaking to us about Christmas tourism / creating tourism for downtown Wilmington. Is Mr. Hoffman here in the office? Okay. Mr. Hoffman is not here. We will then continue on to our public hearings. First item is item PH1, which is an ordinance in the matter of naming an unnamed public road as an extension of Telephone Road. And at this time, I'd like to recognize Deputy City Manager Mary Vinegar.
Thank you. Good evening. Director of Planning and Development Services, Linda Painter, will present this item.
Good evening, Mayor Saffo, Mayor Pro Tem Haynes. I will try to be brief this evening. The ordinance that you have before you is to actually name a street that has been previously unnamed. This is part of a subdivision that was originally approved in the county and annexed into the city in 1995. So this is an unimproved road, unnamed road. And it was brought to our attention back in the fall that there were some emergency service issues with homes that actually front on that section of unnamed road, but have addresses on Formosa Drive. As part of that, Manager Caudle did a temporary naming, which he is authorized to do under city ordinances. And we are here before you this evening to do the public hearing and have this hopefully be a permanent name. I understand that the council has received communications from citizens expressing concern about whether or not this naming would force them to change their addresses, and the answer is no. This provides them with an option to change their addresses. Since the name was temporarily established, we have worked with emergency services to ensure that 911 understands which addresses actually front onto this new section of Telephone Road so that they know which road to go to. And this helps provide that direction to them.
Okay. Are there any questions, staff?
How many properties actually front the new portion?
I believe, and I would have to defer to our address coordinator and can check into that, but I believe there are 8 homes that actually front on that road and have backyards going to Formosa.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Linda. This time I'm going to open the public hearing and ask if anyone in the public wishes to speak on this item, if they'll please come forward and state their name for the record and where they live.
On Formosa Drive. My home is one of, I think it's 4.
Excuse me, ma'am, could you just pull the microphone down a little bit so we can hear you? Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I own a home on Formosa Drive. It's one of the, I think it's 5 that actually face Telephone Road. And we're not crazy about naming the road because we feel that it's going to get developed. So right now, if you cannot build a home facing Telephone Road. Mine does because it was built before. but no one else can. And the whole neighborhood has kind of gotten together, and we're really not excited about it. We have 2 little boys down the street that are just, it's a dirt road. They're playing all the time. When my daughter goes out to ride her bike, I feel safe. If you name the road, it's going to become different. It will be developed, and it's just a nightmare. Does that make sense? That it's going to go the way of the rest of Wilmington, which
Well,
is
this
a nightmare.
Just so you understand, this is not being brought forward as for any development. This is coming
But
from,
it will.
from public safety, from fire and police, because they have to have an address.
I
In the,
understand.
in the event
Sir,
that
I
there's an
understand.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
However, the people of Wilmington, my town, everyone, if you go out and talk to anyone in Wilmington, the way that Wilmington is going is a nightmare. My children want me to sell our house for a huge profit and leave because they hate it. And I'm sure that most of Wilmington feels that way. If you go out and speak to them, we do not have the infrastructure. I realize I wasn't going to speak, but I really would rather not change my address. I really would rather not have it named, so it can stay the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, have you received any additional commentary?
Yes, excuse me, yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I received a comment from Maria Fegg of 22 Formosa Drive. No objections to the renaming of the street if the zoning will not change. I'm against having to change my address. I expect to be allowed to keep my address of 22 Formosa Drive. And we received one from Dorothy Ryan, who's at 178 Prospect Park West in Brooklyn, New York. And she says, I own a lot at 18 Formosa Drive that I'm hoping to soon build on and move. I have no objection to naming the unnamed road to Telephone Road. However, I understand that some other longtime residents with their addresses on Formosa Drive have been asked to change their address to Telephone Road. And I understand this may cause them to have some issues with changing their addresses for banking or other financial situations. Would it be possible to allow those who wish to keep their Formosa Drive address to do so? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Mr.
Yeah,
Burnett?
I want to reiterate asking staff again. They do not have to change their address, correct? I want to make sure that's clear.
A letter was sent out from the addressing coordinator offering assistance for anyone who would like to change their address and identifying the emergency service benefits from doing so, but they are not required to change their address.
Okay, and the basic reason we're doing this is because it's an unnamed road and the fire and police don't know where they are.
Correct. It's to provide better direction in this way. By naming that Telephone Road, we can also have instructions in the system for the emergency responders that identify certain addresses will actually be accessed from Telephone Road as opposed to Formosa Drive, even if their addresses is on Formosa Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Spears?
Do we have an account of how many instances that fire and police have not been able to locate someone on that street?
I do not have that information. I do know that this complaint came from a resident on Formosa Drive. I believe it was from the opposite side of Formosa Drive that expressed concern of fire trucks that were trying to access the rear yards of properties because, or emergency vehicles that were trying to access the rear yards of properties from Formosa Drive because they weren't aware that the front was on the unnamed road.
And I mean, to speak to that point, when you think if that was one of the issues that you would say, hey, my address is this part of Formosa or the other part of Formosa, the undeveloped part of Formosa, I think if you were trying to get help, you might do that.
I can't. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
I can't
I
speak
know
to the
you
people
can't
calling
speak to-
911 as to the information they're giving, but as I said, we did receive some. This was brought to us by a resident who expressed concern that emergency vehicles were coming to Formosa Drive and trying to access properties that they needed to access from the unnamed road.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Reinbar?
I'm real familiar with the street grid. How many houses on the new Telephone Road actually front the new Telephone Road?
I'm going to double check that with our, from the email I have from our address coordinator. I believe it was 8.
And the only reason I asked that, Ms. Painter, I know that the houses on Formosa, that they have Formosa drives because the front of their house faces Formosa and the back faces. The reason I ask, if somebody lived on that new section or what's labeled here as new, it can't be like one person?
Yeah, the resident that just spoke indicated there are at least 5, so that, and I know
The 5 that what?
that front, that have their homes that front onto the unnamed road.
And their lot doesn't go back to Formosa?
Correct.
Okay.
There are 3 lots that front on both streets, and they're all addressed off of Formosa Drive at this point,
Which made sense when it was done.
because there was no street name
Okay.
for the other name.
Will this be called North Telephone Road and South Telephone Road?
At this point, the proposal is just Telephone Road, and that was
Okay.
the way the temporary naming was done.
And they'll be assigned new addresses?
If they would like new addresses, the addressing coordinator has reached out to, with an offer to assist with
So let me,
utilities.
I should have asked this yesterday morning, but I thought it would be pretty cut and dried. If a 911 call goes in and they say they live on Telephone Road, I mean, I don't see this as, if you've got some people that can opt out and some people that want to change, to me, that looks like that'd be more confusing than it possibly is right now. I don't want to beat a dead horse because I know this just fly right through, but it looks like it would be more confusing if you've got people living on the same road with 2 different street names.
I understand, as I said, in talking with our address coordinator, 911, all of those properties where the fronts of the homes are on the new section of Telephone Road, their system has been updated to reflect that, so that even if they have that Formosa Drive address, however, by naming Telephone Road, it allows them to give better directions and say that their house is maybe addressed at 38 Formosa Drive, however, the front is on Telephone Road, whereas previously they couldn't even reference a name. And quite frankly, there were some folks who, at least one person who called us who wasn't aware there was a road there.
It was what now?
One caller who had questions about this before the hearing was not aware that there was a road. They were like, "What are you naming?" I said, and they're like, "Oh, okay. It is an unimproved roadway currently."
Well, years and years ago, it was a telephone right-of-way. That's where it got its name, Telephone Road. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
All right, anybody else? I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of council. Motion to approve by Councilmember Barnett, second by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes. Discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I certainly understand when somebody calls 911 that 911 needs to plug in that number, and the people that are responding, whether it be fire, Novant, whoever, needs to know exactly where they're going. This to me just looks pretty confusing. I just don't see how it's going to better the situation. That's my thought on it.
All in favor, indicate by saying aye. The item passes 6-1. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilmember Barnett, second by Councilmember Spears. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on second reading. That brings us to our next item, which is item PH2, which is an ordinance modifying an existing MD17 CD high-density multi-dwelling residential conditional district located at 4742, 4746, 4750 and 4754 College Acres Drive to allow for 7 duplex structures. And at this time, I'd like to recognize our Deputy City Manager, Ms. Mary Vigu.
Planner Patrick O. Mahoney will present this item.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. You may recall this site is located on the southern side of College Acres Drive, contains approximately 2.13 acres. It's currently vacant. As a refresher, this map shows the general vicinity surrounding the request. These are current photos of the existing conditions along College Acres Drive, and these are photos of the current subject properties. So as mentioned, the site's currently zoned MD17 CD. That's high-density multi-dwelling residential conditional zoning district. This site is bordered by O&I zoning to the south, which is the UNCW campus. There are 15 lots located directly to the east. Previous projects that have been approved are located directly to the west. That's the cottages at College Acres, which is the O&I CD that you see on your map there. And to the north, the College Acres Apartments, which is located directly across College Acres Drive. Those are two previously approved conditional district rezonings. So as I mentioned, you may recall this site, it was previously approved for 36 units in 3 multifamily structures. City Council approved this conditional district rezoning in August of '21. The applicant has requested a modification of that approved site plan to the current site plan that's shown on your screen. This proposed request would replace the previous plan approval if you were to approve this request tonight. The modification to the MD17 CD would allow for 7 duplex buildings for a total of 14 units. And these are proposing a total of 56 bedrooms within the entire complex. These are existing conditions for the cottages at College Acres and the College Acres Apartments, along with the proposed elevations provided by the applicant. Their intent is to continue the duplex style housing along College Acres Drive that's already been previously approved in the previous projects that I mentioned earlier. So this site's located within an employment academic mixed-use center on the Comprehensive Plan's Growth Strategies map, which promotes the introduction of housing uses where appropriate. Areas well suited for infill development should be redeveloped in a way that maintains or enhances the desired character, increases housing options, and improves the overall quality of life in the vicinity. The proposed rezoning would allow for context-sensitive infill development that's compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed modification continues the established block face along College Acres Drive that I had shown in the slide before, which now primarily consists of those duplex structures that are being proposed. Staff believes this proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the recommendations of the Great Wilmington Comprehensive Plan, and the request is reasonable and in the public interest. Staff recommends conditional approval with the conditions listed in the case summary. Planning Commission also unanimously recommended approval of this request at their January meeting. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicant's here as well.
Mr. Reinbart? Okay. Any questions from council? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This time I'd like to recognize the applicant.
Thank you very much. My name's Cindy Wolf, and I've been working with this project all through the several last years. The first phase of what has become a comprehensive apartment complex started by lining the street with duplexes as a logical transition between the busy business corridor of College Road and the remaining community beyond. At that time, this was still a gateway into the College Acres residential neighborhood. That character changed when the traffic diversions were installed at the Racine intersection, and it substantially created a distinct but very logical separation. And this section of College Acres Drive is no longer a gateway in or out of College Acres single-family development to the east of Racine, but it has become it is all the cottages of College Acres as far as an apartment complex. As Pat pointed out, this petition is not exactly a rezone, but just a major modification of the existing multi-dwelling district. The proposed plan is actually much less intense and is exactly what was originally envisioned back in 2021. Again, this is the plan that was currently in place. We'll acknowledge that the approved plan was less than embraced at the time, but there was some outside impetus for an approval, and it wasn't unlike the rest of the community that was being created. However, with this modification, we think this is certainly an improvement. It is what staff imagined and envisioned very early on, and it reduces the density by replacing the three-story buildings, including 12 units, with 7 quad-bedroom, 2-story units of 14 total. We've reduced the building coverage. We've added an outdoor community amenity to also go with the pool and the other outdoor amenities in the other phases of this project. We've increased the applicable open space. This plan now meets all the current criteria with the updated LDC, and the added benefit of the changes is now that there is more adequate parking based upon the analysis of need that's been provided for the whole complex of all the units in the cottages of College Acres, which was absolutely a concern of this council as we've been going through these phases. The architectural style will remain the same. And so with that, I'll be happy to close and hope that you'll concur with the staff and the Planning Commission that this approval is consistent, reasonable, in the public interest for all the reasons that Pat pointed out, and we accept the conditions.
Okay, we have a question here from Mr. Anderson.
Cindy, we rarely see this, but this is just so much better.
I know.
In every way. The fit in the neighborhood, the coverage, the facade along the road, and the parking. I remember I certainly didn't think we had enough, because I am curious, and I love it, but what's the little hockey rink? What are we going to put in that thing down there?
Those are actually cornhole, it's just a sand pit that they would have cornhole boxes, and then there's a patio area that would probably have an arbor or something for grilling.
Okay.
So it's just an extra amenity that they don't already have with the pool and clubhouse across the street.
Okay, looks good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. This time, I will open the public hearing and ask anybody in the public wishes to speak on item PH2. Madam Clerk, have you received any additional commentary? Okay. Are there any further questions from council? Okay. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of council. We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Barnett, second by Councilmember Anderson. Mr. Barnett, you must read a consistency statement.
Yes, sir.
For the record, sir.
I move to approve the proposed amendment to rezone property located at 4742, 4746, 4750, and 4754 College Acres Drive to modify an existing MD17 CD high-density multi-dwelling conditional district to allow 7 duplex buildings and find it to be consistent with the relevant policies in the comprehensive plan. Based on the application materials and the information provided at the public hearing and in the staff report, and to find approval of the rezoning request is reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. The proposed rezoning would allow for context-sensitive infill that is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood.
Okay. Okay. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilmember Waddell, second by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our next item of business, which is item PH3, which is an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city to rezone property containing 0.375 acres of land and associated right-of-way located at 1201 and 1203 Princess Street from O&I CD Office and Institutional District Conditional District to UMX CD Urban Mixed Use Conditional District for an existing restaurant use and 2 residential units. At this time, I'd like to recognize our Deputy City Manager, Mary Bigu.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Patrick O'Mahony will also present this item.
Thank you again, Mayor and members of council. This site's located along the northeast corner of North 12th Street and Princess Street, contains approximately 0.02 acres, and it's currently occupied by a restaurant or cafe use and a residence. This map shows a general vicinity surrounding the request. These are photos of existing conditions surrounding the parcel along Princess Street and along North 12th. And these are photos of the subject property showing the existing cafe, which is the Folks Cafe, as you may be familiar with, and the residence that is attached to it. As mentioned, the site's currently zoned O&I CD, Office and Institutional Conditional District. It's bordered by R5 residential zoning to the north and east. O&I zoning is located to the south, and there is UMX zoning located to the west and southwest. So the applicant is proposing to rezone this site from O&I CD to UMX CD, Urban Mixed Use Conditional District. This is for the existing restaurant, the Folks Cafe, and the attached residential unit to remain as is, with an additional new residence proposed on the same site. As mentioned, the site currently contains that single building, which contains the Folks Cafe and the residential unit. This was a site that is considered a legal nonconformity right now. By rezoning to UMX, it will bring both uses into compliance as well as add this additional residence, which should also be in compliance with the UMX zoning. The site was previously approved back in 1985 for a stationary retail and copying service store. So that was the original O&I CD designation that was approved, I believe, as a special use district back in 1985. Site's located within a high-density transition area of opportunity in Main Street corridor and Complete Street on the Comprehensive Plan's Growth Strategies map. This proposed rezoning would allow for residential infill that's compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and is consistent with the high-density transition area of opportunity. Proposed rezoning allows for an additional housing unit that's near services and employment centers. Staff believes this proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the recommendations of the Crate-Wilmington Comprehensive Plan and that the request is reasonable and in the public interest. Staff recommends conditional approval with the conditions listed in the case summary. Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this request in January at their meeting. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, and the applicant is here as well.
Are there any questions for staff? Mr. Anderson?
Patrick, can you just identify, there's that cross-hatched or kind of zigzaggy line in the right-of-way in front of this proposed new residence. What is that signifying to me?
I believe that is a existing driveway that is going to be closed as part of this development. I'll let Ms. Wolf confirm that.
Okay.
Happy to answer any other questions.
Any other questions? Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Waddell.
So that potentially removed sidewalk, that's city property, right?
Right, that would be in the right of way. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This time I'd like to recognize the applicant.
Thank you. Again, for the record, my name's Cindy Wolf, and I've been working with Ms. Pacini, who is the owner of this property. Folks Cafe is a small neighborhood restaurant that's been operating in Wilmington for over 20 years. In this location at 1201 Princess Street, it's part of what's been called the Soda Pop District. It certainly serves New Hanover High School and the surrounding neighborhoods. The parcel was zoned, as Pat pointed out, for commercial way back in '85, but sort of for different uses. So this petition is somewhat of a housekeeping exercise, not only to bring the use into current compliance, but also to allow improvement that could add another housing opportunity. The existing structure is an old residence built roughly back in 1928, I believe, that was divided into a small commercial use and roughly 800 square feet, and the remainder as the residence that is there now. The patio in the yard is used as outdoor seating for cafe customers. Hours are Monday through Saturday, 7:45 to 1:30, so it's not open in the evenings, it's closed on Sundays. The owner would like to add another residential unit facing 12th Street. The urban mixed-use district is intended to enhance and preserve existing development patterns by encouraging comparable infill. A mix of uses to foster a sense of community is certainly encouraged. Creating a place for everyone is one of the policy statements of the Create Wilmington Plan, and Folks Cafe absolutely provides a comfortable, safe, and convenient place with easy pedestrian access and social interaction. These are just some pictures of the front entry to it, the house adjacent to it. They happen to own the house across the alley on 12th Street, and similar to that design, your one-story building, front porch, the facade addressing the street, that is the intent for the new home. So with that, I'll summarize that we do believe this is consistent, reasonable, in the public interest. Certainly, the Create Wilmington plan suggests that infill development is in compatible neighborhoods. The proposal adds some needed housing near services and employment centers. The site location is included in an area of opportunity for transition, and the UMX district provides versatility of uses, thereby promoting adaptive reuse of existing structures. Part of the conditions, I believe, include that in the event the cafe weren't to operate any longer, there are some reasonable and complementary type uses that could occupy the same thing. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions, Ms. Wolf?
Oh, I'm sorry, back to, there's no sidewalk being eliminated. What happens on that, let's see. I don't believe I have the same picture that Pat had, but there is concrete that goes all the way up to the sidewalk like a driveway apron. So staff, because it is at that entrance to that unopened or unimproved alley, the staff has asked in TRC that that concrete be removed and it be grass, just like a common median along any street. So we're not messing with the sidewalk at all, but that driveway apron would be removed, so that people aren't parking not on the street or half on, half off.
Okay.
Like that car is.
Any other questions, Ms. Wolf? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. This time we'll open up the public hearing and ask if anyone in the public wishes to speak on item PH3. Seeing none, are there any additional comments, Madam Clerk? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of council. I will also note that whoever makes the motion must read a consistency statement for the record. We have a motion by Councilmember Barnett, second by Councilmember Anderson. Mr. Barnett?
I move to approve the proposed amendment to rezone property located at 1201 and 1203 Princess Street to rezone for the existing ONI CD Office and Institutional Conditional District to the UMX CD Urban Mixed Use Conditional District for an existing restaurant use and 2 residential units, and finding to be consistent with the relevant policies in the comprehensive plan. Based on the application materials and the information provided at the public hearing and in the staff report, and the final approval of the rezoning request is reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. The proposed rezoning would allow for compatible infill and additional housing in proximity to commercial services.
Okay, very good. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item passed unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilman Rivenbark, second by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our next item, which is item PH4, and this ordinance has been, I guess as noted, has been revised. The ordinance making amendments to the Land Development Code, Chapter 18, related to open space standards for commercial district mixed-use CDMU projects and the process through which the city's technical standards and specifications manual is amended. At this time, I'd like to recognize our Deputy City Manager, Mary V. Yu.
Senior Planner Nicole Smith will present this item.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. The new Land Development Code was adopted by City Council on August 17, 2021, with an effective date of December 1st, 2021. At the direction of Council, staff has continued to review and monitor the new document for errors and elements that do not work in implementation. As part of the ongoing effort, staff has identified 2 amendments that are needed to provide clarifications and correct issues discovered during implementation. The proposal before you this evening clarifies code provisions in the 2 articles identified on your screen. Section 18-131F outlines the open space set-aside for commercial districts mixed use. Current code is not clear how open space is calculated when the project is part of a cohesive development. The proposed amendment, represented by the underlined text on your screen, clarifies qualifying circumstances based on compliance with applicable use standards. On your screen is a hypothetical cohesive development adopted prior to December 1st, 2021, developed across 2 separate zoning districts. Current code prohibits the O&I track, shown in yellow, from utilizing the open space set aside in the master plan, regardless of the fact the open space was designed to serve the entire development. The proposed amendment seeks to correct this determination so long as the total open space provided meets the minimum 20% required and the open space is located within 1,000 feet with pedestrian connections. The Administrative Provisions Amendment seeks to reestablish the process to adopt and modify the city's technical standards and specifications. A process formerly existed in the previous Land Development Code, but was inadvertently left out of the new code. Again, the underlined text represents staff's recommendation. This slide maps the proposed process and also illustrates the former process. The only difference is the reference to the committee responsible for reviewing and approving the new or revised standard prior to council's adoption. The comprehensive rewrite of the Land Development Code was expected to require amendments to correct errors and inefficiencies, as well as long-term maintenance, to address changes in development patterns and unforeseen land use issues. Staff continues to identify ways to improve upon the new Land Development Code. The proposed changes to the Land Development Code are consistent with the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan. The proposal is reasonable and in the public interest, and staff recommends approval of the request. The Planning Commission held a legislative hearing regarding these amendments on January 11th, 2023. Public comments were accepted via an online form on the city's website in advance of the Planning Commission meeting. No comments were received in advance of the meeting, nor did anyone speak at the public hearing. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request as proposed. Public comments were also accepted prior to council's meeting this evening. One comment was received from Tyler Newman, President and CEO of the Business Alliance for a Sound Economy, in support of the proposed changes. That concludes staff's presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. We also have Rob Gordon with the engineering department should you have questions regarding the technical standards and specifications manual.
Okay, we have a question here from Councilmember Anderson.
Really more of a applause. Thanks for the graphics. You know, in reading it, you get a little lost in it, but once you see with the your renderings, it really makes sense. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. I'm going to open up the public hearing and ask if anyone in the public wishes to speak on item PH4. Seeing none, are there any, Madam Clerk, have you received any additional comments? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for the wishes of council. I will also note that whoever makes the motion must read a consistency statement for the record. We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Waddell, second by Councilmember Barnett. Mr. Waddell, will you please read the consistency statement for the record, sir?
And Mr. Mayor, just for clarification, the vote is to approve the amended ordinance that was handed out tonight, correct?
It is correct.
Does that change the consistency statement?
No, sir.
I move to approve the amendments to the Land Development Code and find it to be consistent with the relevant policies in the comprehensive plan based on the application materials and the information provided at the public hearing and staff report, and to find approval of the proposed changes are reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. The proposed changes will correct errors and address unforeseen land use issues uncovered during implementation of the new Land Development Code.
Okay. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? That item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilman Ravenbach, second by Councilman Waddell. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our next item of business, which is our ordinances. Item O1 is an ordinance making a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $155,625 from the North Carolina Public Beach and Waterfront Access Program administered by the Department of Environmental Quality, Division of Coastal Management, to the Bradley Creek Kayak Launch. And at this time, I'd like to recognize our Deputy City Manager, Mary Begue. Mary?
Parks Landscaping Superintendent Ron McMillan will present this item.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. The item before you tonight for your consideration is an ordinance making supplemental appropriation for a grant award in the amount of $155,625 from the North Carolina Public Beach and Waterfront Access Program administered by the Department of Environmental Quality, the Division of Coastal Management. The grant award augments the Bradley Creek Kayak Launch Project, Parks Bond Project. This new facility will provide a safe and ADA accessible kayak launch with access to Bradley Creek, which is a tidal-influenced waterway. The Bradley Creek Kayak Launch will be located in the Wilmington city limits and will provide access to a highly visible, valuable, and natural resource that connects Wilmington's urban landlocked center to the Intracoastal Waterway. The grant award requires a 25% match from the city, and the city has budgeted funds to serve as a match using $220,000 from the Parks Bond PAYGO funding program for the Bradley Creek Kayak Launch Project. Acceptance of this award would increase the total project budget to $375,625, and the project is currently at 30% design. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? Yes, sir.
Does anybody have a pretty picture, artist conceptual drawing? I got the 30% design today, and that don't mean anything to me. I mean,
Unfortunately, that's where we are in the project now. I don't believe we have any renderings yet.
okay, thank you, sir.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, sir. What are the wishes of council in respect to the ordinance? We have a motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Haynes, second by Councilmember Barnett. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilmember Barnett, second by Councilmember Waddell. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our next item of business, which is item O2A, which is a resolution officially accepting public streets and storm drainage facilities within the Creekside subdivision, which is then accompanied by O2B, which is an ordinance establishing a speed limit of 25 miles per hour along Runnell Court within the Creekside subdivision. At this time, I'd like to recognize our Deputy City Manager, Mary Begue.
Plan Review Engineer Rob Gordon will present both items.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. The item before you is a resolution for official acceptance of the streets and drainage within the Creekside neighborhood. The project was completed in 2020. Most of the homes within the neighborhood have been completed, and they have requested official acceptance of around 4/10 of a mile of street. There is also a companion item, an ordinance establishing the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit along Runnell Court. Blackbeard Road is an extension of the existing Blackbeard Road, which already has an established 25-mile-an-hour speed limit for it. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions, Mr. Rambar?
So the area, Runnell Court's in yellow on the picture. Yeah. And Blackbeard on ours shows a broken line, and down by the thing it just says that's proposed. So all of that road going up.
The blue line is an existing public city street. The sort of amber-colored lines are proposed for acceptance with this resolution.
Okay, well, you see the section called Blackbeard right here?
Yes.
On that screen, it shows it as a solid amber line.
Yes.
On ours, it shows broken, and at the code at the bottom, it says that's proposed. I just wanted to make sure that's already 25. Blackbeard?
Blackbeard
Okay.
is
On ours, it just says it's proposed. That was my question.
Understood.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, sir. All right, what are the wishes of council in respect to the resolution? We have a motion approved by Councilmember Barnett, second by Councilmember Spears. Discussion, all in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. Now to the item O2B, which is the ordinance establishing a speed limit of 25 miles per hour along Ronald Court within the Creekside subdivision. What are the wishes of council? We have a motion approved by Councilmember Waddell, second by Councilmember Spears. Discussion, all in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item passes unanimously on first reading. Is there a motion to waive second reading? Motion made by Councilmember Rivenbark, second by Councilmember Waddell. Discussion, all in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously on first as well as second reading. That brings us to our next item of business, which is our resolutions. We have one item tonight, item R1, which is a resolution supporting requests of state funding of a 10-mile parallel line, Phase 2, for the Lower Cape Fear Water and Sewer Authority. And at this time, I'd like to recognize Councilmember Charlie Rivenbark, who was the previous chairman of the Lower Cape Fear Water and Sewer Authority, and I am also a member of that authority with Mr. Rivenbark. Mr. Rivenbark?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a little background. The Lower Cape Fear Water and Sewer Authority recently, in the last couple of years, has completed a 54-inch parallel line coming from our Kings Bluff intake, 14 miles. And just to give you an idea, it came in under budget and on time. But just to give you an idea of how important that was, prior to that redundancy, we had a leak over around the Regalwood area about 4 or 5 years ago, and it cost over $2 million and a great deal of angst while it was being repaired. Since we've had the redundant line put in, we had another leak of equal severity, and by having the dual line, it cost $200,000 versus $2 million to fix it. So where we are now, we're at the point where there's 10 more miles that comes into the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority and the Pender County vaults. It's 10 miles, and part of that 10-mile run goes under the Cape Fear River. And we had a leak in that line, and here again, if it had come during the height of the heat, the hot season, it could have proved to be pretty bad. As it was bad enough. But what we're scared of, or what we're concerned with the engineers, if that leak occurs in the river, it could really put us behind the 8 ball. So the cost of the new project is about $60 million. The General Assembly was kind enough to allocate $25 million in last year's budget. Cape Fear Public Utility Authority has pledged $11.7 million, as well as Pender County, and those three bundles of money leaves about $25 million that we hope to gain from the General Assembly in this coming session. So this resolution that we're marching out here tonight is in support of that, and we want to get it to our people in Raleigh. And whenever you talk to them, I don't want to sound like Chicken Little, the sky's falling, but this is as important as anything that we can do, because if we have to ration water, we're talking about industries, medical facilities would be severely strained. We'd have to go into some serious rationing of water. And I'm just telling you, these things could happen. We're in good shape. We take care of our existing lines and infrastructure, but this is sorely needed. So that's the reason for the $25 million ask and the resolution. Thank you. With that, I move the resolution.
Okay, make the motion. We have a motion made by Councilmember Rivenbark, second by Councilmember Anderson. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. This concludes the regular agenda. Are there any items brought forward by our city attorney?
No, sir, other than we are going to request a closed session
Okay,
when
very
you're done.
good. Deputy City Manager?
Yeah, I just have one item. I would like to remind City Council about your upcoming legislative breakfast, which is scheduled for this Friday at 9 a.m., and it is here at City Hall. So just as a reminder.
Okay. Madam Clerk? Mr. Waddell? Mr. Barnett?
Yes, you and I had the opportunity to see, I believe it was 18 police officers, cadets become police officers. and we had a chance to shake their hand as they were coming through the line. I was proud to be able to say, congratulations, officer. And then I also asked them to be safe. So I think that we see a lot of stuff about bad policing, but there's a lot of good policing going on too. And I was just excited for those persons who made this their dream. And it's like, you know, finding what God called you to do. And they were just elated. Their family was elated, even though it's a tough job. But we thank those who do that, and we just wish them well. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem. Ms. Reinbar.
Yes, sir. Last week, I was fortunate enough to attend the annual awards banquet for the Carousel Center here in Wilmington. And if you're not familiar with the Carousel Center, I was just talking about how precious water is. The thing more precious than water is our children. And a lot of children aren't as fortunate as some of us, most of us. They've come from child abuse, child sexual abuse, the worst of the worst. And the Carousel Center is that stopgap for those things happening. And the reason I wanted to accentuate that is one of Wilmington Police Department's officers was named, and his name is, I want to get it right, it's Daniel Ruiz-Sueno. And he was awarded the Tin Man Award through the Heart of the Matter. And he was one of 15 nominees, and they were all the nominees were just off the chart wonderful, and Daniel was selected. And that's a tremendous award. He's an exemplary policeman and finds time to donate to his time and efforts and passion to the Carousel Center. If you're ever asked to attend or to help, by all means step up to the plate, because it's a most worthy ministry going on in our town. So congratulations to Daniel again. Thank you.
Spears.
Yes, sir. Just want to say happy Black History Month. Also want to still stress the importance of preventative measures as it relates to COVID. COVID is still a real thing. I know, was it the last week or the week before, the president had declared that the pandemic was over, but that does not mean that COVID is not still a thing. So be mindful of your elders and your neighbors and your people who are medically challenged in your community, because COVID is still taking people out and getting people sick. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So is there a motion to enter into a closed session pursuant to the provisions of General Statute 143-318.11A3 in order for the City Council to, number one, consult with and provide instruction to the city attorney regarding potential legal claims, including the case, the Funk Yard LLC versus the city, file number 21 CVS 2790. And I will also note that the closed session will be held in the council's retiring room. At the end of the closed session, council will reopen its public session and adjourn from that location without returning to the council chamber. Okay, we have a motion to approve by Councilmember Anderson, second by Councilmember Waddell. Discussion, all in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item passes unanimously. We will now go into closed session.